Well, I have a very strong sense of place. I'm very rooted here. I've made it a half a mile in my life.
3/4.
3/4. But I don't know how to explain it, except it just feels part of you. I'm Marj Perry, and I am a co-owner of Cold Mountain Ranch here in Carbondale. And I have been for, well, not an owner my whole life, but I've been here my whole life.
And I'm her sidekick, Bill Fales, together, and with our daughters, Molly and Katie, and assorted others, we run this ranch. Well, here we are. We're right at the foot of Mount Sopris, hidden in the clouds, about 2-3 miles south of Carbondale, right on the Crystal River and the highway. We have, 700 acres here. Every acre we own is protected by a conservation easement and held by the Cattlemen's Land Trust.
This ranch was purchased by my grandfather, who was a silver miner. What do you call them?
Owned some silver mines.
Owned some silver mines in Aspen, and he bought it from Eugene Grubb, who raised potatoes. He sold his potatoes on the
New York Central
Railway, individually wrapped, and built a 3-story house. And eventually my parents, when they wanted to live here, moved to the ranch and lived in that big house, and took a lot of fixing up. It had been rented for quite a while, and there were chickens living in the house, and several of the rooms was the chicken house, and took a little work. But then my parents started in about 1941. I think they came to Carbondale full time, and I grew up on the ranch with my 6 siblings.
I came out for a summer job to work for Marge's dad, and stayed. It's been good. I mean, I just arrived here and went, wow, this is pretty damn nice. This is a good place to be. So here we are in some irrigated pasture that I feed on all winter, so it really cranks out the grass in the summer and spring. We'll shut our cows up above here another couple of weeks when things start to green up, to give the grass a chance to grow without being eaten off. They'll be shut up at the foot of the hill here, up in the kind of the bottom of the gulch where it's gravel, and they'll be unhappy there for a couple of weeks till the grass is good, and then we'll sort. We'll put some here on this pasture, and that pasture where those cows are. Our main activity in the summer will be haying these big fields between here and the highway and on the other side of my driveway.
I'm Molly Fales, and I grew up here. This is my parents' ranch. We lived here when I was born, or at least down on my grandparents' ranch, who neighbored us to the north, and we've lived in this house since I was 6, and my husband and I have been lucky enough to come back to the ranch with COVID.
I'm David Manning. I'm the husband of Molly Fales. I grew up in Massachusetts. I came out to Colorado in 2013 to play outside and met Molly, and have stayed ever since.
Raising our kids here was a lot like it was for me as a child. I mean, a little different time period, but they just were part of the ranch. Maybe more so, they spent more time helping us because I was one of 7, and a lot of other people were on the ranch, and I grew up in total chaos with there's always someone around that could take care of kids or do this or that, but we had to bring our kids with us more, or leave them home very young. But it was great. They helped us do just about everything. We had a couple of really good old horses that you could put them on, and they could hold on and help us sort cows, and the horses knew what to do. So that was good.
Well, it's not just that I need a little pole to crip along on. It helps, but I use it a lot, tapping calves to get them up, or some of these cows are excessively motherly when I go to tag it. And if I can just tap her on the nose, she'll usually back off and let me tag her calf. A brand new calf has to get up and get colostrum in it right away. Their colostrum is what transfers all the cow's antibodies to the calf. And at birth, it can absorb 100%. But by 24 hours, it's lost its ability to absorb those antibodies. So it's really vital. Plus, I call it that colostrum, I call it rocket fuel, because it hits that belly and just warms that calf up and gets him going. Even in this snowy weather, if a calf gets licked off and gets up, gets a belly full of colostrum and milk, he's good to go.
We are very close to Carbondale, and so we've been concerned about development for a very long time. We're actually in Carbondale's master plan, or were before the easement. It came out of a section along the highway where they had us drawn right in. And when we bought from Mike and Pauline DeZandri, they treated us very fairly, and they really wanted the land to stay in agriculture. They were from Aosta, they were immigrants. And those guys, the whole valley was full of Aostans, and they value land. And we told them we would never develop it. And, that was not a big deal. We didn't want to. But they definitely were interested in seeing it stay in agriculture.
For me, I still remember there was a period when I was pretty little, probably about 7, when reporters would come by, and some reporter came by, and I remember him asking my parents, what does it feel like to be the last generation that's gonna ranch? And thinking, I don't want that to be the case. I don't want their generation to be the last generation that ranches.
As Marj says, we don't leave because people come from all over the world to vacation here. We don't have to. We get to vacation here 365 days a year. It's just spectacular, but you get to know it so intimately, so well. After you get to know it and you're walking, I could do a lot of my irrigating blind, I think, just because the feel in my feet. I know where I am, and I can tell where the ground is damp or where it's really dry and hard. And then, I've got a few busted bones and a lot of sweat and blood scattered over this land. It becomes part of you.